I know. Okay. February starts on Thursday. And I know you're wondering why a homily about February. Through random life circumstances, the month of February comes to me with confusion and strong feelings. At the beginning of the month, on the 7th, I experienced the really sad death of a person at the beginning of their life. Then 2 years ago, my father died at the end of his life on the 18th, and that was a very difficult situation. And then my son Jack was born on the 21st. So all these events, and I've always wondered how to commemorate these overwhelming life events. So throughout time, we've organized our experiences into rituals and celebrations to commemorate and understand our situations of life, death, birth, the seasons, and mysteries that surround us. February addresses all these and more, I'm happy to say. So February was invented and named in ancient Rome when 2 months were added to their 10-month calendar. They called it Februum, which means purification. And it involves many rituals that can take place at any time during February. By AD 165, the Romans celebrated 135 festivals a year. That's a lot of festivals. And many of them with a wildness we don't see today in what we do. So one of the festivals in the last month of the year was called Lupercalia, celebrated on February 15th, to celebrate health and fertility. The name Lupercalia comes from wolf, and that is named after the wolf who raised Remus and Romulus, founders of Rome. It began with the sacrifice of goats and a dog. Then 2 young naked men were led to an altar to have their foreheads touched with a bloody knife. The ritual required the 2 men to laugh as the blood was wiped off with wool dipped in milk. Then women lined up to be whipped by strips cut from the goat skin as a way to encourage fertility. We don't do that today for fertility. Then the Romans enjoyed a night of wild abandon. The Romans, hey? They can teach, we can learn so much from them. Lupercalia segued into Valentine's Day, where it became a little sweeter, a little tamer, and an opportunity to receive and show love. Will we be loved, and what form will it take? One of the most essential questions of our lives. This year, February 14th, is also the first day of Lent, a solemn Christian religious observance commemorating the 40 days Jesus Christ spent fasting in the desert and enduring temptation by Satan, and that leads into Easter. So for me, it's helpful to think about our inner wilderness, because at certain times in our lives, we are in the wilderness. So contemplation, fasting, prayer, a kind of withdrawal from regular life. I don't know about temptation from Satan. Lately, I haven't had any temptations at all except donuts, but
Stay tuned.
Anyway, so think about we could say I'm in a personal wilderness and spend some time in reflection. But in February, we also have Imbolc. Do you know that?
Of course,
Imbolc.
absolutely.
Yeah. Chinese New Year, that is bringing in the year of the dragon, and Groundhog Day, from the sublime to the ridiculous. Okay, so many things in February linked together, a possibly meaningless coincidence. Astrologically, February is a watery month. There's Aquarius, the water bearer, and Pisces, the fish, bringing us once again into the watery realms of contemplation. In modern religious purification rituals, water is the great purifier, and in ancient Rome, fire was also used. In ancient Rome, during the month of February, they honored the goddess Vesta. Vesta, fire is the goddess. So, and that is the goddess of home and hearth. So once again, there's a withdrawal into home, refuge. And you may notice right here in our Unitarian service, we have fire and we have water, vestiges of ancient rituals. That's right. Later, I'll talk about a wondrous purification ritual created by a Unitarian that includes both fire and water. So I know that what you're mostly wanting to know, why is February 28 days rather than 30 or 31? With a 29th day tacked on every 4 years, except for years that end in 00, except for the year 2000. Huge mystery. So we owe this strange feature either to the Romans, who devised a 12-month calendar as a way to avoid bad luck, or we can accept the scientific explanation that we want to be congruent with the universe. You can look this up on Wikipedia, it's really convoluted. Anyway, so I just want to start with February 1st, an amazing pagan celebration called Imbolc, welcoming in the spring, and it honors Saint Bridget.
Of the water.
Who actually has been turned into a saint now, but she's the goddess of poets and healers. And here's something interesting, the word Imbolc has been linked to an old Irish word meaning to wash or cleanse oneself. So another example of the water of February. And all this is leading me to think I should walk into the ocean. I think that's the only way forward. Karen Christie agrees. If you want to walk with me, we can do that together on February 1st. But we can't forget Groundhog Day. Predicts how much longer we have to wait for spring. Scientific. February, in Winnipeg, where I grew up, February would feature a melt and reveal a bit of grass. Feeling the joyful approach of spring after months of frigid winter, I was disappointed when the cold weather always returned. March came in like a lion and left like a lion. April the same. Sometimes the snow would melt to reveal the gorgeousness of a Winnipeg spring. Dirty black snow, dog turds, because you didn't have to clean up your dog in the snow, and the occasional body. And just as an aside, Katerina Vermette, in her book The Break, which is set in Winnipeg in the North End, talks about how dangerous it was in the winter in Winnipeg for marginalized people, a risky place. Eventually, Winnipeg would be 30 above, humid, with mosquitoes and worms hanging from the trees. I hope I haven't dissed Winnipeg for any of you from there. Okay. There's a movie called Groundhog Day where every day repeats itself, and my coworker and I would celebrate a ritual around Groundhog Day as a commemoration of how we felt at work, that every day was the same day. So it is possible to create meaningful rituals in all kinds of ways. So Chinese New Year predicts that the year of the dragon will bring growth, progress, and abundance. Is anyone here a dragon? Kai is a dragon, and
Lane
is a dragon. So to find out if you're a dragon, you count backwards, and I figured 1964 would be a good starting place to count backwards from for this group. So apparently dragons are charismatic, intelligent, confident, powerful, naturally lucky, and gifted. So congratulations, Kai. It sounds like it's going to be a good year for you. Okay, so we're going to go back to purification now, because that is the basis of the month of February. In many religions, purification is required before contact with the sacred, and there are all kinds of ways to experience this. Washing, inner work, even housework where you clean your house, and also making amends. Um, there are so many cleaning, there are so many purification rituals all through our modern religions. In Islam, when I went to the mosque, they had washing stations at the beginning, and they instruct us on how to wash. And the reason for that is to remove physical and emotional impurities so that the love of God can come into our hearts. So that is a lot about what purification is to allow the sacred, divine energy to come in. This is called wudu in the mosque. And if you haven't already been to the mosque, they're very friendly, and it's really interesting to go to a different place like that. Christianity is all about purification. When I was young, my grandfather gave me a box of 100 Bible verses to memorize that would stand me in good stead in my life. The first verse, Psalm 51:5, says, "Behold, I was brought forth in iniquity, and in sin did my mother conceive me." I didn't memorize all 100, but as a Christian, I am born spiritually filthy, convicted of sin, then metaphorically washed in the blood of Christ, baptized as an adult in a tank of water in front of the church. It should interest you to know that Mennonites split over the issue of whether sprinkling was good enough or full dunking was needed. I am proud to say I come from a full immersion community, which was surely necessary to wash away the terrible sins of a 15-year-old. But if there is a heaven, I'm covered. So happy to have that reassurance. So Catholics practice confession, in which admitting sins and performing penances leads to a right relationship with divinity. And of course, eventually the Protestant Revolution removed the need for a priestly intermediary, and it is now possible to convict and abnegate oneself directly to God rather than through a priest. So there you go. Even Buddhists have purification rituals. They believe that we are naturally pure and acquire defilement through the delusions of greed, hatred, and ignorance, the three poisons. Purification is achieved through following the Eightfold Path and gradually returning to our state of nirvana, ruled by compassion and equanimity. In the Jewish faith, on Yom Kippur, we ask forgiveness from those we have wronged and from God. So we remove our faults and how we have hurt other people in preparation for coming to the divine. House cleaning rituals, such as those before Chinese New Year, we clean and sweep everything in our house. We sweep out the old. So there must be a really powerful, innate wish in humans to be freed from afflictive states that are actually wrapped around things like guilt, remorse, and just the general troubles of life. Even in secular practices like this 12-step program, in step 8, we make an inventory of people we have wronged and make amends where possible. So purification rituals are everywhere once you start looking. And this led me to wonder how Unitarians relate to purification. And the first response I got from an experienced Unitarian was that they don't really think about all that much about purifying. A sense of sin is not on the top of their theology, or uncleanness, and that's not a major aspiration. However, I did find a beautiful Unitarian purification ritual created in 2016 by Lois Van Leer. The ritual involves 4 parts using fire, water, and oil for letting go, cleansing, intention, and hope. And to me, those seem like very reasonable human responses to the difficulties of our lives. It was a wondrous discovery to find this ritual, and I think it would allow you to cope with the confusion, joy, and pain, releasing the past, as Amanda did for us with the burning paper a few weeks ago, to release, pouring water over hands to be freed for renewal, anointing with oil, and lighting a candle to symbolize new hope. I hope we can do that ritual here sometime. So in our discussion, I encourage a sharing of how we relate to rituals of purification or to the other festivals of February, like Kimball, Lent, Groundhog Day, and Hope for Spring, Chinese New Year and the Dragon, Valentine's Day, and our Wish for Love. And I happen to have with me a Valentine for everyone. And I encourage you to take the Valentines, give them to someone here with something nice. You could write something nice about them. Making sure to be sensitive, because when I was in school, the teacher would plonk a box in front of a room. We'd stick Valentines in. At that time, self-esteem had not yet been invented. So adults were outnumbered by children of the baby boom, and they wanted compliance and they wanted obedience. So they didn't say that everyone had to give a Valentine to everyone else. But today we can look around us and see who needs a bit of love and just say something nice about them. So I'm going to hand these out, and that is the end of my homily. Thank you so much for your patience and attention. Thank you.